Chapter 806, Submitting. The answer from the Star Devourer insect left Tang Xiu at a loss whether he should laugh or cry. Was this luminous vine a toddler in which intimidation would work on and make it submit? Don't throw me that nonsense. Just quickly gimme ideas. The luminous vine is a very timid race and they also fear flame the most. The Star Devourer insect replied very seriously, ordinary flame may be enough to burn ordinary luminous vines, but many powerful flames will be needed to burn the stronger ones. Just like the luminous vine in front, as long there's a powerful flame, you can scare it without killing it. This thing is timid and is afraid of flame? A strange expression appeared on Tang Xiu's face. He then cut off the mental connection with the Star Devourer insect and struggled to stand up from Kawako's embrace. As he exerted out his magical power, 2 burning flames suddenly rose in his hands. Luminous vines like you are usually afraid of special flames, aren't you? It's a coincidence that I have a very special flame myself, so today will be your time of death. Tang Xiu transmitted his thought to communicate with it and altered it with his intense killing intent. In that instant, the lustrous glowing luminous vine retracted back its branches and wound up to cover its body while it transmitted its fear and thoughts. That's a demon flame. God damn it, how can you humans on Earth have this magical flame? Tang Xiu squinted. To begin with, his cultivation was the heavenly art of cosmic genesis that was classified as a supreme demonic cultivation technique. The flame made of his magical power naturally had a demonic property. But what surprised him the most was that this luminous vine could recognize it as demon flame. You guess it right. This is demon flame. Even those so-called heaven-shaking demon kings from the demon realm are not necessarily better than me. Since you know the might of the demon flame, you should also know these 2 burning demon flames in my hands can instantly turn you to ashes. Don't kill me. The luminous vine transmitted its thought rapidly. Humph. You just ambushed me and this account must be repaid in full. Tang Xiu snorted and coldly said, unless you can give me huge benefits, I don't mind venting my anger and let you suffer and scream inside this demon flame. And by the way, I forgot to tell you something. I was once a supremacy in the immortal world. Though I don't know the star region you used to live in, you must know the existence of a mortal world. Also, I have a special ability that is to seal souls. I'll have your soul sealed inside my demon flame after burning your body to ashes. I'll burn you for days and nights and make you agonize in pain as you get burned for an eternity. You were once a supremacy in the immortal world? Damn it. The luminous vine's body fiercely shivered. It contracted and squeezed itself tighter, seemingly because it got scared out of its wits. Just as Tang Xiu was about to intimidate it further, he felt pain from his finger as the Star Devourer insect quickly transmitted its thought, You used to be a supremacy in the immortal world? Yes. Tang Xiu felt that he didn't need to conceal it from the Star Devourer insect and straightly replied. The Star Devourer insect's emotion fluctuated. Its emotion turned exceptionally unusual with both fear and excitement, as well as a bit of wariness and caution, as it then transmitted its thoughts again. If you really used to be a supremacy in the immortal world, I'm willing to submit and serve you forever as long as you take me with you when you ascend back to the immortal world. Do you really know the immortal world? Asked Tang Xiu. Yes. We know the immortal world, answered the Star Devourer insect. It's because the star region we used to live has a cosmic spatial channel to the immortal world. It's just that spatial channel is extremely dangerous. Only those species with a terrifying strength can advance through the channel and come to the higher plane that is the immortal world. There had been one occasion when an immortal from the immortal world came to our star region. He easily killed the most powerful Redfoot black dragon and destroyed a big empire. Tang Xiu understood in a flash and agreed to the Star Devourer insect's request. He then continued his intimidation towards the luminous vine. I once sent my subordinate immortal to a star region you used to live in. He seemed to have killed the strongest redfoot black dragon in your star region and easily destroyed an empire there. It's a pity that my subordinate was very soft-hearted as he just directly killed his enemies. Had it been me, I would have extracted their souls and tortured them through many days and nights, never letting them go even if the cosmos repeated its samsara cycle. Gasp. A tentacle of the luminous vine suddenly extended toward Tang Xiu. The dark green tentacle had a shining and transparent diamond-shaped crystal on it. Tang Xiu could sense the enormous energy contained inside even if he didn't touch it. He even had the feeling that if the energy inside this diamond-shaped crystal were to explode, it would absolutely destroy the whole earth. "What do you mean with this?" asked Tang Xiu. There was a very intense flattering in its thoughts, yet it couldn't conceal its fear. "This is my energy nucleus and also my core foundation. With my energy nucleus under your control, you can control my life and death. I'm willing to submit to you forever and I'll do anything you request of me as long as you don't kill me." Tang Xiu asked about it to the Star Devourer insect and its answer was pretty much identical. He could control the luminous vine's life and death if he controlled its energy nucleus, but it would also have a bad effect on the luminous vine itself as its growth rate would be greatly slowed down. Seal of life and death. Tang Xiu cast magic arts into the energy nucleus and then casually threw it back to the luminous vine and said, "I don't need to control your energy nucleus since controlling your life and death is easy for me. You should be able to sense the powerful seal I've cast on your energy nucleus yourself. If you dare to have any idea to go against me, I can make you die completely with a mere thought." After taking the energy nucleus back into its body again, the luminous vine noticed that something had seeped into its energy nucleus. It gave off such a dreadful sensation that it felt like once it exploded it really would kill them, even its soul would be blown away. Tang Xiu inhaled deeply and walked to the front of the luminous vine under the watchful eyes of the horrified Kawako Yamamoto. He reached out and touched the body of the luminous vine and transmitted shape-shifting art into its mind and then said, "Cultivate this shape-shifting art, so you can transform your body into a human form." An immortal art? The luminous vine was excited. Its tentacles opened and quickly absorbed the contents of the shape-shifting art. A few breaths later, a crystalline green light bloomed and fully covered its body like a light cocoon. Inside it, a naked girl appeared. She looked like a teenager older than 15 with pale skin like that of fine chinaware. "Create and transform clothes for yourself," said Tang Xiu directly. Luminous Vine observed her own body delightedly. The set of clothes was nearly identical with Tang Xiu's attire, only dark green, and they smoothly went on her naked body. "Thank you, Master." Tang Xiu nodded with satisfaction and said, "You'll follow me in the future. I'll come by to teach you for some time, so you can learn some human knowledge." "Tang Nu already knows some human knowledge," said Luminous Vine hastily. "This base can monitor anywhere on this planet and I've been here for more than 1,000,000 years, so I know all the history of humankind's evolution. I even know that you're from that backward civilization called the country of China. Since you can find out my origins, don't you also know what I've done?" Tang Xiu squinted his eyes. "No. It's through your language that I know your origin, Master." Luminous Vine shook her head and said, "But I rarely observe the outside world and sometimes didn't observe the situation outside for thousands of years. The last I observed it was because some humans who breached inside piqued my interest, but..." "I see." Tang Xiu instantly understood and nodded before asking, "Do you have a name?" "I didn't. But after I become your slave, you can call me Vine Slave, Tang Nu," replied Luminous Vine. Tang Nu, Vine Slave? Tang Xiu nodded and was too lazy to give her a new name. He then said, "If so, then I'll call you Tang Nu from now on. By the way, is this the main console? I need to completely control this vestige, so teach me." Tang Nu turned and came to the front of the seat in the center of the hall. She pointed to it and said, "There's a memory card in this chair. You only need to sit on the chair and download the content from it." The downloaded contents will be transmitted to your brain and you'll learn how to control this vestige. Good. Tang Xiu himself was a man with guts and he wasn't afraid that Tang Nu would scheme him, so he sat straight on the chair. At this time, Kawako's eyes were full of worship and respect towards Tang Xiu. She didn't know how Tang Xiu could make the vine stop attacking, and he even made it transform into a human form. Was she a spirit? She could conclude that this girl, who said herself as a Tang Nu, was a being the likes of an evil spirit, a vine that had been cultivating. Yet this evil spirit had actually submitted to her boss, Tang Xiu. It was truly beyond her imagination, and she couldn't help but feel that her decision to follow Tang Xiu was a very wise decision. Time passed by. Inside another hall in the vestige was a large plant nursery with a lot of precious spiritual medicinal herbs. All of them, however, had developed sentience, but none of them were able to leave the seedbed. Hazy lights scattered top-down from the roof and provided them all the nutrients they needed. After Cheng Xuemei entered this place, she keenly sensed the extreme freshness of the air inside this place. Inhaling it slightly made her spirit shake and also caused all the pores of her body to stretch open. When her eyes landed on the many fruits in this plant nursery, the thick fragrance of the fruit made her drool a little. Fortunately, she was able to restrain her desire and quickly observed everything inside. Don't tell me this place only has flowers and plants? Somewhat feeling disappointed, Cheng Xuemei hesitated before walking closer to the plant nursery. When she stopped half a meter from the edge of the seedbed, she bent down and reached into it. Snapped. A sharp green long leaf instantly wrapped around her wrist, its sharp edge scratching Cheng Xuemei's wrist, causing her blood to scatter in a straight line. However, the moment the leaf was stained by Cheng Xuemei's blood, it instantly released her wrist and rapidly moved a few meters away under her watchful gaze. Chapter 807, Dragon Soul Blood Spirit. Cheng Xuemei, whose wrist was scratched, was instantly shocked by such a strange scene which she had never thought she would bump into. That was a plant, for God's sake. However, even when she hadn't yet recovered from that shock, several branches and long leaves had already wrapped her body the moment after, pulling her into the seedbed. Except for the half-meter-high plant that instantly retracted back its branches and leaves after getting stained by her warm blood. Other branches and leaves from the rest of the plants pulled her into the seedbed, causing her to look like a rice dumpling that was being tied up and wrapped. What's exactly happening here? Deep fear welled up inside Cheng Xuemei's heart. She suddenly recalled some scenes of man-eating plants as well as the monster plants she had seen on TV. Suddenly a plant full of beautiful flowers and sharp thorns pricked Cheng Xuemei's head. There was no blood splattering, nor flowing brain fluid. Instead, after the sharp thorn entered Cheng Xuemei's skull, green energy instantly constructed an airtight net that completely wrapped her brain tissue. Human's brain is really fragile. The penetrating plant's consciousness greatly shocked Cheng Xuemei as enormous energy flooded into her soul's sea that penetrated her meridians, flushing through into her body with an irresistible force. Throbbing spasms of acute pains was as though searing her heart. Cheng Xuemei felt like going insane by the pain. She even subconsciously realized that her body would explode if this kept on going on. She attempted to stop the surge of the enormous energy that drilled into her body with her consciousness to no avail. Am I really going to die? Cheng Xuemei refused to surrender to such a fate. Fear might fill her whole being, but to die here was something she refused to accept. She hadn't yet accomplished her mission, and even more, she hadn't found the person she most cared about, her young sister. At this moment, intense, powerful courage burst out inside her heart. The moment that powerful consciousness entered her body along with that penetrating branching energy, her consciousness clashed with it and the two consciousnesses intertwined. Originally, Cheng Xuemei's consciousness was being devoured by the other one when they came into contact with each other's consciousnesses. However, it was unknown whether it was due to her courage or because she was the true owner of this body, but the particular special energy suddenly drilled out from her heart. The golden-colored energy was very small but was extremely potent. Dragon soul blood spirit? Damn, how can this bloodline appear in the human on Earth? The invading consciousness sighed as it was instantly shattered to fragments by the golden energy. Layers of images dispersed and floated in the space of Cheng Shuemei's consciousness like duckweed floating on water. In front of Cheng Shuemei, the dark green plant withered at a slow speed. Even the blooming flowers of the plant slowly turned into ashes and then scattered with the gentle wind. In that instant, tens of thousands of plants inside the plant nursery seemed to have been frightened as all of them ran away for dozens of meters, including the plants that wrapped around Cheng Shuemei's body. They hid far away, watching her body that was gradually being wrapped in a layer of dark green light which eventually formed an oval green-like cocoon. Inside another room of the vestige, experts from the United States and France were confronting each other in front of a pair of energy crystals. Even though their bodies had scars and wounds besmeared with blood, their lives were not in danger, while 4 dead bodies of Italian experts were lying nearby. You fucking know my strength clearly, Alanti. The one who'll become the winner will still be us if we really have to fight. Get out of our way if you still want to live or don't blame us later, said the American team captain, Sorid, with a surging killing intent on his grim face. Killing intent similarly covered the face of Alanti. Even the tip of his longsword was still dripping blood as he replied in a heavy voice, "Do you really think you can get these energy crystals if the 5 of us lock on you? Do you think you can survive if we really burn our life force and fight you to the death? Half of these energy crystals are ours, we can split it with you or we can let the other countries benefit." The corner of Sorid's eyes twitched a few times. It was what he was most worried about from the start. Even if he was confident that they could completely eliminate France teams of Alanti and his 4 comrades, the losses to his party would be enormous. It was already very great if there were 3 of them still alive. If the situation really went that far and other countries' experts really appeared, then it would truly fulfill the old saying that the third party would swallow the first 2 parties that were engaged in combat. However, America had a reputation as being hegemonic and Sorid was similarly overbearing. His identity in the United States Ability Users Bureau was a man above thousands of people and only under one man. His stature was too remote and aloof in the entire country, thus, plainly speaking, having the spoils divided by half as proposed by the French was simply a disgrace for him. Sorid took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "Dividing it in half is absolutely impossible, but I'm fine if you take 3/10. However, if you're not satisfied, then let's get it on. We'll immediately send someone to bring these energy crystals out after we kill you anyways. Then we will return back to compete for other treasures." Alanti heaved a deep breath and secretly made up his mind to use the card up his sleeves to launch his most powerful blow, to let these damned Americans learn what he was capable of at this time. Then, he would reapportion these energy crystals later. Lightning blitz thunder roar. Alanti instantly took out a sphere of a round metal object from his sleeves. As rings of lighting appeared, lighting sparks flashed out at Sorid's team of 5. At the same time, the other 4 also unleashed their most powerful attack. All kinds of abilities were showcased as the 5 people stormed over towards the 5 Americans with great momentum. Fucking bastards. Sorid's face dramatically changed. Little did he think that such a little disagreement would make Alanti's team of 5 straightly attack them. On top of it all, just when the heck did Alanti have such a powerful special ability? Hundreds of lightning blasts were formed in just an instant, even he couldn't stop it at all. Dodge. With his roar, layers of flames instantly formed a wall of fire, trying desperately to fend off the lightning strike. Yet, each lightning strike that hit the wall of fire made Sorid's body tremble. When the hundreds of lightning strikes hit the wall of fire, more than a dozen strikes penetrated the wall, causing Sorid's body to violently sway and forced him to stagger away to the side. "You take cover." A handsome, blonde Caucasian youth had his face greatly altered. He formed several walls of metal in front and immediately blocked the lightning strikes that were not blocked by the wall of fire. However, the other 4 men's special abilities then arrived. Although the metal walls looked firm, the violent barrage of bombardments made dozens of lightning strikes penetrate the metal wall and blast on the chest of the Caucasian youth. Zeke! Zeke! After a few screams, the other four, including Sorid, sprinted to the Caucasian youth's front and joined forces to fend off the violent barrage of attacks. Unfortunately, the youth called Zeke, who didn't expect that the enemy's attack was that powerful, already had his whole body charred black by the lightning and had a hole the size of an adult's fist in his chest. The lad still had some life in him, but he wouldn't last for long. Alante's eyes sparkled with excitement. This was his second time using a power booster, but little did he think that the outcome would be this great. He originally thought that injuring some of the Americans was already a great achievement. He never expected that he would directly eliminate one of the American elementalists. You asked for it, Sorid. I have a power booster so that the power of each of my strikes is so great that it is absolutely unimaginable. Next time, provided that my strike can erupt even stronger, even you may be killed. With a face turned extremely nasty, Sorid fixedly glared at the sphere object in Alante's hand. He inhaled deeply and then said, "We'll share the energy crystals half to half, but we'll remember this hatred. You can start dividing them equally if you agree. If you don't, let's resort to the killings again. I still have the confidence to kill all of you even you have that treasure." This? Alante deliberately hesitated before he nodded and said, "I accept. For the sake that no other countries are profiting from us." As a matter of fact, his power booster could only be used once at a time, as it needed a long time to store energy after using it. For instance, with his special ability to manipulate lightning, it would take him several months to store up such enormous electrical power in the power booster, before it could unleash several hundreds of lightning strikes at once. In another place, inside the hall of the main console, Tang Xiu could clearly see what happened to Cheng Xuemei and the American and French teams through the holographic surveillance. Back when Cheng Xuemei encountered that accident, he also wanted to save her but never expected that she had fallen in the most critical time. When he discovered her, it was too late to rush there even if he had wings. What made him feel at ease was that Cheng Xuemei's life was not to be in danger, and she even seemed to have experienced a huge fortuitous encounter instead. "Boss, that American is disgusting." Kawako Yamamoto, who stood beside Tang Xiu, had a loathing look in her eyes when she looked at Sorid. She knew this guy, and as she witnessed him torture and murder several tramps who unknowingly made him displeased. Tang Xiu himself didn't have a good impression of this American guy. When he heard Kawako's words, he thoughtfully said, "If we kill all the Americans here, the French team won't be able to stay either. Now that I have full control over the power system in the entire vestige, eliminating them is easier than pinching an ant." He already obtained the memory heritage, so it was a cinch for him to manipulate the weaponry system in this vestige. He could even clearly see all the scenes in the entire vestige through the main console. With a delighted, yet surprised expression, Kawako said, "Well, the fewer the enemies, the more we gain, don't you think so, boss?" Chapter 808, Eliminating Scourges for Humanity. Adopting Kawako's suggestion, Tang Xiu's fingers were as though turning into shadows as his hands reached out to the virtual keyboard. Just as the Americans and French teams had reached an agreement and prepared to divide the pile of energy crystals, all the lights in the hall where the two teams were staying suddenly shut off. "What's happening here?" Both Sorid and Alante shouted at the same time as members of both teams backtracked in an instant and vigilantly watched the surroundings, wary against each other that the other party would be up to no good and taking necessary caution to guard against it. Flame. Burn. Both teams had members with fire attributes abilities. Blazing flame rose from the hands of the fire elementalists of both teams and illuminated the dark hall. Just as they carefully observed the opposite party, the closed wall suddenly split and weak lights appeared from the cracks. A line of red eyes appeared as the 8 cracks grew bigger and bigger, showing off 8 fully activated robots that stepped out from the inside, each with a robodog at their feet. Wang, Wang. A swarm of robotic bees followed and instantly overtook the Autobots and Robodogs, swarming over towards the 9 people in the hall. The Autobees were fist-sized and numbered in the hundreds, each with their respective sharp sting. Even their foreheads were decorated with a several centimeters long sharp spike. Be careful. Get away. Quickly. Both Sorid and Alanti furiously shouted and unleashed each of their abilities in an attempt to eliminate these robot bees. Unfortunately, Flame only had slight effects on these machine bee and the same for Lightning. The only thing that made the Americans feel at ease was that they had water attribute ability users, who worked in conjunction with the lightning attribute elementalist and were able to destroy a large number of Autobees. Pew, pew. 16 laser pulses were fired while the 8 Robodogs spread out strangely shaped wings on their backs. The moment they flew into the air, sprays of flame jetted out from them. The elementalists evaded them timely, yet it was still hazardous to them. Just after they had escaped the first barrage of attacks from the robots, Robodogs, and Autobees, a large grid of electrical net sparked out from 4 directions and covered them nearly in an instant. Shortly after, beams of laser pulses penetrated the bodies of ability users from both teams, straightly taking their lives. The flames shot by the Robodogs came spraying and burnt their bodies to ashes. Kawako's eyes glittered with excitement as she watched the holographic images, seeing how the elite ability users from the United States and France were reduced to ashes. She clenched her fists and excitedly exclaimed, "I've been watching those bunch of assholes with disgust and now they meet their makers." "You've just eliminated the Scourges, boss." Eliminating the Scourges? It was so weird, so Tang Xiu glanced at her with a strange expression and smilingly asked, "Are they really that evil?" "Damn they are." Kawako heavily nodded. "Just like that damned Sorid, the American team captain. He's a through and through bastard. I dunno how many times he killed innocent people just because he was an ability user with formidable strength and stature. Most importantly, I saw him wantonly murdered hobos with his special ability." "Eh? You didn't forget your own identity, did you?" asked Tang Xiu, looking at a loss whether he had to laugh or cry. "Just from when did you care about some hobos?" "Ugh. Well, it's not like I really care about those tramps." Kawako's face turned red, looking embarrassed, and then said, "It's just mainly. The main reason is that I once led a team to snatch element attribute stone from Sorid's hand. He was seriously injured but 20 of my team members died, so it's just a feud between him and me." Tang Xiu instantly caught the gist and nodded. "So, you just wanted to kill him as revenge for your comrades, didn't you? My current team has 2 of my people, the rest are from the House of Yamamoto." Kawako waved and said, "Whether they live or die has little to do with me." "By the way, how is the development of the House of Yamamoto at present?" asked Tang Xiu. "It's naturally very smooth with the help from you, boss." Kawako smilingly replied, "If it wasn't because I don't dare to develop my influence on the grand scale, the entire House of Yamamoto could have been in my hands right now. Even though I'm working on it in the dark, I have controlled 1/3 of Yamamoto's armed forces, as well as half of the North Star One Blade School's forces. You've done great." Tang Xiu raised his thumb up. "Anyway, if you could send me some top experts, I'll become the true patriarch of Yamamoto House as well as the schoolmaster of North Star One Blade in a short time, boss," continued Kawako. "Thinking of it, there's an adage from your country stating that you can capture the entire kingdom if you catch the king first. As long as I can control those high-ranking big shots, I can guarantee complete success." Tang Xiu mulled it over and nodded. "All right, I'll send over 2 experts to assist you when we leave this place. You'll be able to control those 2 forces quickly with their help. But after that, what exactly are you gonna do once you've controlled those 2 forces?" A cold gleam flashed in Kawako's eyes, and she replied with a heavy voice, "I'll eliminate Sakura Circle." Tang Xiu didn't know the situation of this Sakura Circle in Japan. After learning of it, he then understood that Sakura Circle had always been mortal enemies with the House of Yamamoto. The situation between the two forces looked uneventful on the surface, yet there was always constant friction between them under the radar. They even had an intense conflict a while ago. Kawako led her team of experts to murder a lot of Sakura Circle's experts in that conflict, resulting in her being rewarded by the Yamamoto house, elevating her status as the leader of the new generation of the Yamamoto house. You've got the courage to do what you will. I have tons of things I need you to handle in the future, so the stronger you are, the easier it will be to deal with some issues in the future. Just tell me whenever you need some funds or manpower, even if you want me to come in person. But make sure you can solve your enemies smoothly. Kawako knelt on one knee and excitedly said, "Thank you, boss. I'll definitely do everything I can to control more power and do my best to work for you. Even if you want to be the sole sovereign of Japan, I'll be right behind you to accomplish it." Tang Shou gently patted her shoulder and smilingly said, "Stand. I'm not interested in being the sovereign of Japan, nor do I have the slightest idea about it. But you may one day become the master of your country. Just work hard. I'm looking forward to your success." Shortly after that, Tang Xiu heard some sounds from the holographic images and saw the 4 Chinese ability users were now cautiously exploring the arsenal, which stored a large number of various weapons. After testing some of them, the 4 people looked very excited and put some small but powerful weapons into their military bags. Had it not been because of their limited physical strength, they could have swept the entire arsenal clean. "Boss, this vestige is fully under your control. Do you really want to let them take all the weapons in the arsenal?" asked Kawako, looking a bit puzzled upon finding Tang Xiu didn't make even a sound nor expression. "It's impossible for them to take all those weapons out," said Tang Xiu calmly. "Though I'll give them a big gift when they are about to leave." "A great gift?" Kawako seemed to look forward to what it was, as she really wanted to see what kind of plan Tang Xiu had for these Chinese ability users. Half an hour later, Tang Xiu watched Xu Long's group of 4 leave the arsenal and prepare to continue exploring other areas. A smile suddenly appeared on his face as his hands continued tapping the virtual keyboard and he finished setting up a series of procedures. Then, he smiled and indifferently said, "I'll take a stroll to some areas, you do the monitoring here. Do remember, I have set up a series of procedures to make them not to fall to dangers, but incidents will always happen in battle. So press this button immediately if you find them in danger." Kawako looked at the place Tang Xiu's finger pointed at as she nodded and said, "Got it, boss. I'll definitely monitor it." The entirety of 3-star Vestige boasted a vast area, but Tang Xiu had received the memory inheritance and was now very familiar with the place. After leaving the main console hall, he immediately rushed to the other areas: the arsenal, energy storehouse, living quarter, sports area. And finally, he came to the nursery plant area where Chung Xueme was stranded. As he saw the dark green light cocoon in front of him, Tang Xiu detected that Chung Xueme's vital signs were stable and she was in good condition, even getting stronger. Then he immediately turned his vision to the tens of thousands of plants in the nursery garden. Though he already knew through the memory card that all the plants planted in this area were just what's left after more than 1,000,000 years, each one of them had magical power, which made him very excited. It must be noted that if these plants were to learn shapeshifting art and transform into human beings, the power they possessed was definitely terrifying, and they would still become a considerable force to be reckoned with, even if they were in the immortal world. However, so as to prevent unnecessary trouble after leaving, he would still need to make all the plants with sentience and high intelligence submit to him before teaching them the shape-shifting art. Tang Xiu inhaled a deep breath before speaking in the common language of the Black Cloud Star region. "I know you can hear me and understand what I'm talking about. I have now become the owner of this vestige and I accepted the inheritance left behind by the last remnant of Starnet Empire. So, I'm giving you all 2 choices. First, to be killed here. Second, to accept my ruling and become my subordinates." Buzz. The tens of thousands of sentient plants in the entire nursery garden emitted a burst of intermittent humming sounds, which was their unique method to communicate as they quickly fell into conversation with their kind. After a long while, a several meters high plant with a full white body transmitted its thought to Tang Xiu's mind. Why should we believe in you? We can casually kill you even if we can't leave this particular area. You're right that you live in an area where people from the Starnet Empire have laid out a special array formation around you. But you can only move here and can't appear anywhere else in this steely vestige, sneered Tang Xiu. Hence, you'll forever be trapped here if no one helps you, and that is the very reason why you can't kill me now. On the contrary, I have many ways to reduce you to ashes, such as using this fire. Chapter 809, A Huge Undertaking. As demon flames appeared in Tang Xiu's hands, the excessive temperature instantly caused layers of heat waves in the whole nursery garden area. Even at the moment when the demon flames in Tang Xiu's hands appeared, the tens of thousands of sentient plants in the nursery garden were as though seeing the most terrible nemesis, the very bane of their existence, and they fled to avoid it. An interesting sight. Tang Xiu could clearly sense fluctuations of intense thoughts of fear even if they couldn't transmit it to him. In order to fully intimidate them, Tang Xiu grinned with mockery and continued, "The weapon system in this vestige is completely under my control. I only need to use the laser cannon and acid poison. It's so easy if I want to kill all of you. Also, if I think you're not worth wasting my resources, I don't even need to use the weapons system. I just need to shut down the photosynthesis device in this nursery garden, destroy the nutrient generator, and completely cut off the nutrient extraction pipe to make you constantly use up your energy. I'm hella sure you'll gradually wither away and I will completely cut off any possibility of your survival." In that instant, the moment Tang Xiu's voice faded away, countless emotional fluctuations filled with fear came along, accompanied by horrifying thoughts and screams. "Submit, we're willing to submit. Have mercy. We're willing to serve you as our master. Please don't kill us. We choose the second option." Tang Xiu nodded with satisfaction. What he had to do was coerce and tempt. Now that he had intimidated and threatened them, gentle and amiable treatment came next in the form of benefits he could give them. "I can tell you clearly. You chose to submit to me, and it will only benefit you with no downsides whatsoever, as I can teach you some immortal techniques. You will not only be able to transform your shape, but also have a high chance to have peerless magical power under the heavens in the future." Immortal techniques? As well as changing form? In that instant, the tens of thousands of sentient plants turned deadly quiet, using their special means to watch Tang Xiu. Back when they became sentient beings and had wisdom, they didn't know what immortal techniques were. They hadn't had such high intelligence that long, so they were simply clueless of what immortal techniques meant. However, ever since the luminous vine suddenly came to visit and had some exchanges with them tens of thousands of years ago, only then did they find out what the immortal arts meant. In their view, the luminous vine was an extreme existence and the energy it had stored was nearly 10 times stronger than theirs. But even the luminous vine was yearning, eager to obtain such immortal arts, meaning that it was something very precious. An imposing aura suddenly erupted from Tang Xiu as he shouted, "Release your energy nucleus, for I need to cast a seal on them. Once the seal is cast on your nuclei, your lives will be under my control and whoever dares to betray me will die with a mere thought." Whoosh. 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 Energy nuclei came flashing from these sentient plants. The cores were numerous and filled with dense energy, causing turbulence inside this space. Tang Xiu used his perception to sweep over the surroundings and was immediately dumbstruck. After counting, the energy nuclei that flew toward him numbered 35,680 in total. That even made him somewhat chilled and his heart beat rapidly inside. If these sentient plants were to use their energy cores to attack him, he would perhaps be blasted away and die in an instant. After all, these beings were all freaking bizarre monsters that had lived for 1,000,000 years. Sealing art. No longer wasting any time in hesitation, Tang Xiu frantically began to cast a seal on these energy nuclei. But with 35,680 in total, it was practically a huge undertaking for him. Inside another spacious hall in the vestige. The 4 Chinese ability users had obtained a full haul of harvests. Each of them carried a military bag full of weapons with a relaxed mood. Various types of weapons even hung on their bodies. Zhulong, Fire Devil, and Electro Lady grinned ear to ear, whereas the rarely talking Aqua Babe also had a small smile. I don't know how Tang Xiu's doing right now. We encountered quite a lot of dangers right as we entered the vestige, and there may be more in the interior. But I think he should be fine, said Zhulong with a smile after entering the hall. Well, he went a separate was, Zhulong Captain, that man surnamed Tang just boarded our team, but we in here not on the same boat, like at all. Hence, whether he's alive or dead has nothing to do with us. There's no need to be concerned about him. I think Fire Devil makes sense, though I still hope that he can survive. Electro Lady smilingly said, at least, that guy is so handsome and he's my type. It'd be very regretful if he were to die here. The smile on Aquababe's face receded, and she coldly glanced at Fire Devil and Electro Lady before speaking. You all don't forget that we'd have never obtained such a big harvest if Tang Xiu wasn't with us. Even we might have died in the previous crisis. Humph. There's no need for you to put him on a pedestal to undermine ourselves, Aquababe, sneered Fire Devil. Who said we couldn't have safely come inside without him? If we didn't have Tang Xiu with us, could you easily destroy the robots in the outermost passage? Could you have smoothly passed through the maze formation in the statuary hall and opened its gate without him? Could you make sure we didn't need to fight with other countries' ability users without him? Or make sure all of us survive if we had to fight them, questioned Aquababe. Getting barraged with the sharp questions that Aquababe shot at him left Fire Devil rendered speechless. His face turned a bit ugly as he flung his face to the side and no longer spoke. Zhulong raised his brows. He did feel a bit dissatisfied due to Tang Xiu's departure from the team even though his impression towards him had changed a lot. Yet, the arguments from Aquababe were undoubtedly true and he couldn't refute them. He then spoke his mind, pipe down, you two. Tang Xiu is still our Chinese national comrade. No matter the benefits he obtains here, they will still be handed over to the country. At the very least, he would never let those foreigners obtain them cheaply. As long as we are still in this vestige, we are comrades in arms and will never become enemies. Hey, nobody said that he's an enemy. Fire Devil retorted without holding back. Right as Fire Devil's voice fading away, however, a laser pulse instantly beamed forward from the secluded corner of the hall and unexpectedly shot through Fire Devil's arm. What the heck is happening? The complexions of Zhulong and the rest significantly changed as they threw their military bags to the side. They even quickly put down all the heavy weapons they carried on the alert. Fire Devil's arm was shot through but the shot didn't hurt his bones, though the bad wound was still severe. As he unleashed his fire attribute ability, he quickly used the fire to burn the wound as scabs began to grow at a slow rate which stopped the bleeding. Pew. 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 4 laser beams were shot from the 4 corners of the hall and were aimed at the cautious team of 4. The target of the laser beam, however, wasn't on their vital points. Avoid it fast. Zhulong's countenance changed as he instantly pushed Fire Devil while he took a dash to the side himself. With their fast speed, they were able to avoid the danger posed by the laser beams. Zhulong Captain, we passed this place previously but no laser attack targeted us. What's going on here? Shouted Electro Lady with disbelief pervading her eyes. I don't know, but if my guess is correct, we should have triggered some mechanisms here by accident, cautiously said Zhulong with eyes sweeping to the 4 corners of the hall. Be careful, everyone. Carry these high-tech weapons and leave this place immediately if the laser beams start shooting out again. Pew. 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 Laser beams were shot from various locations in a gap of just a few seconds. This time, there were 8 laser beams and despite the 4 people's strength, they were nearly hit by the laser beams. Fuck. Dash out quickly. Zhu Long was keenly aware that the number of laser beams was doubling and they may not be able to leave this place alive, if they were to stay here too long. The wind blew as he flashed to reach out and grab 2 military bags on the floor, then he dashed out towards the end of the hall lightning fast. The 3 others also picked up the military bags and heavy weapons that they previously put down and then rushed toward the front. Unfortunately, their calculation was shattered by the next wave of laser attacks as 16 laser beams formed crisscrossing lines that came head-on in front of them. Discard the heavy weapons. Zhu Long roared, but when he had yet to avoid the 16 interlaced lasers, he looked back and found the laser grid quickly following their movements. His sharp eyes instantly judged the gap between the laser grid which could only be passed through by one person. He angrily threw the 2 military bags he carried full of vexed unwillingness. Behind him, Fire Devil, Electra Lady, and Aquababe likewise found the situation in front and similarly discarded their military bags and heavy weapons like Zhu Long, following suit to sprint forward quickly. ZZZT. ZZZT. In 10 seconds, all 4 people passed through the hall, but the weapons in the 4 military bags they brought from the arsenal were all discarded. The cutting lasers in the hall even ruined those weapons. The most heart-wrenching thing was that some of the small weapons they carried along were also badly damaged by the lasers they passed by. The 4 people stood side by side outside the hall at the entrance. Seeing that there were no longer lasers shooting everywhere, Fire Devil furiously cursed, "This is fucking hell." Aquababe looked at Zhu Long and asked, "What do we do next? Go back to the arsenal and get some weapons, or just leave like this?" Zhu Long was silent for a moment before shaking his head. "No. We didn't encounter danger in this place when we went in, but it appeared when we came out. This means that we were lucky when we went in, and our luck went down the drain the moment we came out. We still got some weapons, so that's it. Let's just look elsewhere, I think." "What if there's also danger lurking elsewhere?" asked Aquababe again. "We'll evacuate at once if we encounter them," replied Zhu Long in a deep voice. Chapter 810, Departure. Inside the main control room, Kawako Yamamoto stood quietly in front of the main console, watching the distressed Zhu Long and his team through the holographic footage. She exhibited a smile. She was already a belle, to begin with, and the floating smile added a much deeper charm to her looks. Unfortunately, there was no man nearby but only Tung Nu, a sentient being that hadn't yet known the way of the world. Just as her eyes inadvertently scanned over the holographic footage next to her, however, a sudden look of surprise appeared in her eyes. "Well, the Indians?" It never occurred to Kawako that there was an Indian ability user still left in the vestige. The person was severely scarred, struggling to get up from the floor. The fellow should have been killed by the American ability users, but he unexpectedly survived his death verdict. Looking at his appearance, however, he was so severely injured that he would be killed instantly should he encounter any further danger. Inside the botanical area, Tang Xiu was full of sweat after casting the sealing art on 35,680 nuclei. Despite the burden, he kept working without resting, which still made it take a long time to finish the work. He had even consumed too much of his mental energy, resulting in his pale complexion. 3 days passed by in a flash. Having spent his mental energy for the 6th time and after recovering, Tang Xiu had finally completed casting a seal on 35,680 energy cores. Now, plainly speaking, these sentient plants wouldn't pose any danger to him even if they were released from the nursery plant area. However, his task was not yet completed even after casting the seal, as he still needed to impart them the shape-shifting art. He didn't want to be seen by outsiders with his crowd of a plant army behind him. That would scare them shitless, no less. Huff. After being done with imparting shape-shifting art to 35,680 plants, Tang Xiu finally inhaled a breath of relief and quietly sat cross-legged. He didn't hurry to restore his spent mental power but observed the plants instead. Time ticking by and, finally, a grass-type plant swayed as an intense green light suddenly bloomed, revealing a 7-plus-year-old child in front of Tang Xiu's eyes. This is amazing. The child blinked and immediately looked at Tang Xiu and respectfully cupped his fists. Tang Xiu responded with a pale smile and waved at him while moving at the same time to break the array shrouding the nursery garden. Master. The child's voice was clear. He was naked and hadn't transformed any clothes. After the instruction from Tang Xiu, he created some strangely shaped clothes. Feeling helpless upon seeing him, Tang Xiu had to take out his smartphone to find some photos of children's wear, hinting for him to change his clothes. Immediately after, the plants began to transform into human form unceasingly. After a long while, there was no longer any plant inside the botanical area, as a total of 35,680 men and women, young and old, were all looking at Tang Xiu respectfully. All right. You all have just turned into human form but you haven't yet learned human customs, said Tang Xiu with satisfaction. So be it, then. You'll stay in this base for a while and I'll send a group of humans to come here and they will teach you common sense and the knowledge on Earth. If you have mastered the customs and knowledge, I'll take you to live outside. Understood. Their loud reply made Tang Xiu secretly satisfied. As a matter of fact, for Tang Xiu to appear in front of them after using coercion and temptation was also a huge risk in and of itself. After all, these guys were all old monsters that had lived for more than 1,000,000 years. Even if they didn't learn systematic cultivation techniques, each of them had a terrifying strength. Even he was secretly worried inside that they would immediately cause a global catastrophe once they came outside. This won't do. A measure must be put in place in advance. I gotta work hard to manufacture Tribulation Evasion Talisman, since only with this talisman will they probably able to hide from the detection of heavenly Tao, allowing them to live well on Earth. But these guys have been living for too long and the energy they possess is too powerful. Even the Tribulation Evasion Talisman might not be able to conceal their aura. I'm afraid they can only stay in this place for the time being. Tang Xiu took a deep breath and immediately imparted some basic cultivation techniques from the immortal world to them. Regarding your duty now, you will all to stay here to safely and steadily cultivate. It won't be long before I take you to ascend to the immortal world in the legends. But none of you are allowed to leave this place secretly without my permission. Anyone who dares to violate my command will have their souls wiped clean, so don't blame me for being cruel and merciless later. Understood. All the sentient plants that had transformed ant into human form hurriedly concurred. When Tang Xiu returned to the main control room, he saw Kawako touching her chin and deeply frowning. He couldn't help but ask, "Are there any problems? You seem to look deep in thought." Kawako shook and sobered up as she pointed to the holographic footage. "I just found a fish slipped out of the net, boss. He's an ability user from India and is kind of severely injured, though his life is not in danger. He is currently recovering from his injury and should probably recover soon." A surprised look filled Tang Xiu's eyes, but he nodded and said, "It's indeed an escaped fish. Seems like those Americans and French didn't do their job properly. Let him be, though. Let him live since he's alive anyway. Besides, of all the various countries that jointly entered the vestige, leaving only 2 teams and everyone else dead might cause some troubles later." Kawako looked dull for a moment before she thoughtfully nodded and said, "You're right. Needless to say about other countries, but the United States will definitely not give this up given their usual overbearing attitude." "That's right. What should we do if those countries send more people again? Do you not know that this vestige only opens twice every 10 years? Tang Xiu was surprised. "And by the way, what date is today?" "May 5th, answered Kawako. Tang Xiu frowned before he nodded. "Since it's May 5th, then we still have 2 days left. You must leave this vestige within 2 days and bring a dozen energy crystals out with you. If some other countries want to snatch them, give them hell." "You mean?" "I'm leaving with the Chinese team?" asked Kawako. That's right. Not just the Chinese team of 4, you'll also go out with that Indian man, Tang Xiu nodded. With people from 3 countries coming out alive, the other countries will guess that something wrong happened in the vestige, I believe. But they won't throw all the blame to our 2 countries either. Also, return to Japan directly after you go out. I'll send someone to look for you in Japan when I leave this place. You mean, you're going to stay here for a while, boss? Hurriedly asked Kawako. You couldn't be thinking to stay here more than 2 days. Tang Xiu raised his hand to interrupt her and smilingly said, do I even need the submarine to pick me up if I want to go out? The entire vestige is now under my control, I can even override its system procedures now. I can control the ships in this vestige to leave whenever and as long as I want. I understand. Kawako then suddenly pointed to the botanical area where Cheng Xueme was still wrapped in the dark green light cocoon and asked, what about her? She's exactly why I need to stay here for a while before I leave, answered Tang Xiu. I already inspected her situation before I came back from the nursery garden. She's not in danger, but it will take quite some time for her to wake up. Don't worry, though. I'll take care of her properly. You just need to make up some excuses to the Japanese authorities to cover things up. Understood. Kawako nodded and turned around to leave. In the peripheral passages of the vestige, for Chinese ability users were all badly battered. Yet, they brought out some weapons and the previously disassembled robotic parts. Instead of leaving in a hurry, they quietly waited here since they had to board the United States submarine to leave this place. Boss Zhulong, what do you think about Tang Xiu's chance of survival? Asked Fire Devil slowly. Will he come out? We've been waiting here for 2 days already. You ask me, but whom should I ask, huh? Zhulong shook his head. This vestige is freakishly strange and is full of perils and dangers. The slightest bit of carelessness may cost you your life. We've been here for 5 days, but none of any country's ability users comes out, which only means that they've probably died inside. I believe that he will definitely come out, interjected Aquababe suddenly. Why are you so sure? Asked Zhulong, surprised. Intuition, said Aquababe. Electro Lady sized her up with a strange expression before she smilingly teased her, don't tell me you took a liking for Tang Xiu? Aquababe straightly threw her face to the side with an expression that seemed to say, I'm too lazy to bicker with you. Mind your own business. Suddenly, the 4 people suddenly jumped up from the floor cautiously as they saw Kawako Yamamoto come out from the inside. The Japs? Zhulong's team of 4 frowned. Never did they expect that the first person who came out alive would turn out to be someone they liked the least, a Japanese. Kawako shot an indifferent glance at the 4 and lightly said, you truly have excellent luck, losing only a few, and it seems like you're hauling quite a good harvest too. Care to share some with me? Zhulong sneered, are you not afraid we'll join forces to kill you and snatch the things you brought instead? Had it been people from other countries, I may have to worry about that. Kawako shook her head. But you Chinese? Humph, not your style. A cold gleam flashed in Zhulong's eyes. As he was about to drive Kawako away, a staggering figure rushed out. It was the Indian man whose body was all battered. He was holding a dagger and was glaring at everyone else with killing intent. Count yourself lucky. Zhulong sneered and gave the signal to the rest. They then picked up the things they brought out, no longer waiting for Tang Xiu, and they walked straight outside. As soon as the team members of each country returned to the location of the connecting point, the submarine would immediately send them out. That was the agreement between these countries. Deep in the vestige, Tang Xiu was in front of the main consoles, watching the people from the 3 parties go out at the same time, a smile carved on the corners of his mouth. He had already thought of countermeasures to immediately shut down the entire vestige after all them left. After Cheng Xueme woke up, he'd then take her to leave. As for the spoils, strictly speaking, he had obtained too many. he could randomly take some and give it to Duan Mulin when he left. Just that would earn him some great merits.